Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Francisca and in today's video I'll be showing you guys how to make this beautiful two-step umbrella dress. It's very pretty, right? So I'll be showing you guys how to make this, how to use a bias tape to conceal the raw edges to make your strap. I actually showed you guys how to make the bias tape in my previous video. I will link that in the description box so you guys can go ahead and watch that. Now, if you have not subscribed to our channel, you are actually missing out. So click the subscribe button, click the bell so you get updates when Francisca posts new videos. Now we can go ahead and begin.
So this is the fabric I will be using. What I'm going to do next is to fold my fabric into two like this. So I'll fold it into two like this. Can you see the folded edge? So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold it diagonally. So you fold your fabric into two and then fold it again diagonally like this. So this is what I have. I'm going to turn it to the other side so you can see exactly what I am doing. So once it is folded nice and neat, I'm going to bring my tape rule now. I'm going to look for a point where I have my bust measurement divided by 4 plus, like seam allowance. So right here I have about 10 inches. I'll just go ahead and draw a straight line at this point. We are going to end up with a triangle at the top. So this is what I have on this straight line. I will go ahead and mark my bust measurement divided by 4. For me, it is 9 inches. So I mark that 9 inches. I add half an inch for seam allowance. So this is what we have. Now on that same line, we'll be marking our shoulder measurement. So for me, my shoulder measurement divided by 2 is 7. But I'm not going to be marking that 7 inches. Instead, I'm going to move in by 2.5 inches, which will give me 4.5. Do you understand? So I removed 2.5 inches from 7 and I marked 4.5. And where I marked that 4.5, I'm going to draw a straight line upwards like this. So can you see that? This is what I have. My armhole round measurement is usually 9 inches. And from that 9 inches point, that is where I would mark my bust circumference divided by 4. And you can see this is what I have right here. So I'll be removing 5.5 inches for my strap. So from this 9 inches, I'll be removing 5.5 inches. The reason I'm doing this is such that we don't end up with something that is too short or too long for us. So I place my tape rule like so, and then I mark 5.5 inches. Can you see that? So what I'm going to do now is connect from where I marked my bust circumference divided by 4 plus half an inch. I connect it to this point right here where we remove that 5.5 inch, and this is what I have. Can you see the armhole curve? So I'm going to come to this folded part. We're going to be doing our neckline. So from that bust line, I'll be coming up by 2 inches. Can you see that? And then I'll connect it with my French curve to that point where we, removed our 5.5 inch. If you go with 3 inches, or more, you're not going to end up with sort of like a V-neck shape at your neckline. But 2 inches will give you a V-neck shape. That is for me. So the deeper you go, the more V your neckline gets. So I'm going to add a half an inch seam allowance at the neckline, and then I'm also going to add a half an inch seam allowance at the armhole area. So guys, what I'm going to do next is to mark the length of the blouse. So I'm starting with the short blouse, the short part of this dress, and from this point here, not the seam allowance point, can you see where the edge of the tape rule is? From this point, I'm going to be marking the measurements. So if I'm going to be going with 20 inches, from that point, I'm not going to mark 20 inches. I'm going to mark 20 inches minus 5.5 inch because, we removed 5.5 inches at the top. So that will be giving me 14.5 inches. Then I'll add half an inch seam allowance to that, making that 15 inches. Do you understand? So that is what I'm going to be marking now. So this edge of the tape will be stationary, and then I'll be moving the bottom and marking 15 inches like so. So I'll be taking my tape rule all around, and I'll go ahead and mark my 15 inches like this. Can you see what I'm doing? So I hope that is clear. So I'll be marking my 15 inches like so. And then once I'm done with that, I'll just go ahead and join the points like so. Then I'll cut out my fabric. So I cut the armhole area, then I'll come to my neckline and cut. After cutting this out, this is what I have. Can you see the V-shaped neckline? That's because I went with 2 inches. So we have the front and the back piece all cut out, and I'll be using this as my pattern to cut the longer piece. So I'm going to fold the fabric the same way I did initially. Fold it into 2 first, and then go ahead and fold it diagonally like so. And once it is nice and neat, I'm going to get the shorter piece that we cut out initially. Ensure that the folded edge of this short piece is aligned to the folded edge of the fabric underneath like so. So once that is done, what I'm going to do is mark the length of the longer piece. So from the bottom of this short piece, I'm going to be marking 5.75 inches. That's 5 3/4 inches. So can you see that? So from the bottom edge of the shorter piece all around like so, I'll be marking 5 3/4 inches. That's exactly what I'm doing now. And then once I'm done with this, I join the points together like so. And the first thing I'm going to do is to cut the neckline and the armhole. So with that shorter piece as my pattern, I'm cutting the armhole. Then I'll go ahead and cut the neckline. I went with this first because that place is not marked out. So we don't make a mistake and shift the shorter fabric. That will give us issues. So I'll go ahead and cut the sides, then go ahead and cut the bottom. Remember, it's all marked out. So this is what I have. I have my short pieces, I have my long pieces. So what I'm going to do is to, as they are with right sides touching, I'm just going to go ahead and join them together by a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the side seam. So I'll join the long pieces separately and then join the short pieces separately. Do we understand that? So the short pieces will be joined separately, the long pieces will be joined separately. So after sewing them together, this is what I have. Gone ahead to overlock the raw edges as well. So I'm going to turn the 2 pieces right sides out, and you guys should please watch what I'm going to do next. So after turning it right sides out, I will be wearing the shorter piece on the longer piece. So just imagine yourself as the longer piece and you putting on a dress. So I'll be wearing the shorter piece on the longer piece. So I'm going to align the side seams like so and pin it down together. Then I'll be, aligning the armhole points of both the shorter piece and the longer piece like so and pin it down. So the reason I'm pinning it down is so that the next, step will be easier for us. So I'll also come to the middle of the neckline, pin it down as well, and then I'll just pin the rest of the top, the side seam, the armhole points, like so. Just go ahead and pin them down. So after pinning them down, this is what I have, and then I'll go ahead and sew the entire top with a 1/4 inch so that the short piece and the long pieces will be joined together. Do you understand? So I'll just go ahead and sew everywhere at the top with a 1/4 inch. So after sewing this, guys, this is what I have. Can you see that? So like I said, this will make the next step easier for us. So here is my bias tape that I made in my previous video. Please go and watch that so you can make your own bias tape, because that is what we'll be using to conceal the raw edges of this blouse. So first off, I'm going to be concealing the neckline. So I place the edge of the neckline in the middle of my bias. I'm using a 1-inch bias tape that I made. So once I sandwich it in between the bias, I'll just go ahead and pin them down together. So I'll just continue to do that for my neckline. So just go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to pin it down like this. So guys, for the midpoint of my neckline, I'm going to create a tiny notch. That's because of the V-shaped neckline I have going on there. This will enable me to, easily sandwich that point in my bias tape. So I'll just go ahead and do that, sandwich the neckline and pin down. So once I'm done with this neckline, once we are done sandwiching and pinning down, The next thing we are going to do is to sew this down together. So I'll be sewing it at the edge of this bias tip. And I'll repeat the same thing for the other neckline and sew at the bottom edge of this bias tip like this all around. So once I'm done sewing, this is what I have. Can you see how neat and clean the neckline is? So that is why you need to make your own fabric bias. So we want to go ahead and work on our armhole and make our straps. So what I'm going to do is also sandwich the armhole area into the bias tip. So I'll repeat the same thing I did for the neckline, and then I'll just go ahead and pin it down. So I have this little bit of excess here, which I'm going to explain the purpose it has. So I'll just go ahead, pin this down. Now I'm going to come right here again. We're still working on our armhole, but we have gotten very, very close to the neckline. So once I'm done pinning that down, I'm going to come and work on our strap. So from this point right here, around the neckline area where the armhole begins, remember that we removed 5.5 inch in the beginning. So I'm marking that 5.5 inch from this point here. Can you see that? From that point where my armhole begins is where I'm marking that 5.5 inch. So I'm going to fold that point where I have marked the 5.5 inch. I fold it, and then I'm going to flip my dress to the other side. We want to create the strap for this part. So from that part where I folded, I'll be marking another 5.5 inch on the bias tip. So I'll go ahead and mark that. And where I made that mark is where I'm going to place the neckline on this side. So can you see what I'm doing? So I'm going to place it where I marked that second 5.5 inch like so. And then I'll just go ahead and pin it down. So after pinning this down, I'll continue to sandwich the edge of my armhole in the middle of the bias tip. I'll continue to do that till I get to where I started initially. So sandwich, pin, and when I get to this point, guys, can you see? This is what I have. So I'm going to be cutting my bias tip just at this point where I have that dressmaker pin. This will help me to create an overlap at this point. So what I'm going to do is to fold the edge of the bias tip on top like so and place it right here. It is going to overlap the other bias tip at that point. So make sure that yours is nice and neat. And then once that is done, what I'm going to do is to stitch the edge of the bias tip around the armhole, around the straps that we have created. I'll just go ahead and sew, and I'll repeat the same thing for the other armhole and create a strap for the other side. So after sewing, this is what I have. Can you see that? Can you see how neat it looks? So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and work on the hem of the dress. So for the shorter piece and the longer piece, what I'll be using to conceal the raw edge is my 1/2 inch bias tape. So after hemming, guys, this is what I have. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for watching. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and I'm going to be seeing you guys in my next video. Bye guys.